Everybody, welcome back to What If Deku Was the Portal Master. This is going to be part 3B because my recording randomly cut out when I was recording part 3A. Now, in part 3A, Trap Shadow, Chop Chop, and Deku had just returned to Skylanders Academy. And Trap Shadow noticed that the academy was smaller than normal and was asking why. Now, I'm gonna lead off the actual What If with Trap Shadow asking a question that finished off, part of Chop Chop's answer finished off 3A, but Trap Shadow's question was the last full sentence that finished off 3A, so let's get back to the what if. So, Trap Shadow asks, well, then how many Skylanders do we need to return this to its former glory? And Chop Chop responds, we'll need all of them. Or at least as many Skylanders as there were in the book previously. Deku looks down, thinking that he might not be able to get the Academy to its, former glory, since all of the Skylanders have basically spread across Skylands, and it's too risky for him to leave the Academy, or at least go too far from it. Usually, you can only go 1 or 2 teleporters away without the risk of getting lost. However, when they enter the main hall of the academy, Trap Shadow starts looking around and says, this place brings back memories. Oh god. I think I might pack my stuff and find my room. I don't know if I'll be able to readjust to this size, but I'll try to make do. Well then, I guess you'll be off. Chop Chop responds. Trap Shadow goes out to explore the rest of the academy. Deku brings Chop Chop to the infirmary that's there, since, there's something that I need to clear up. Every time people return to the academy, or go to the academy, and, they are considered friendly to the Portal Master, they're healed. They're completely healed. The only thing that needs replenishing is their stamina. And that's what the infirmary does. It replenishes stamina. But it is also there to make sure that in case of an attack on the academy, they have somewhere where Skylanders can actually be healed. Okay, so now that that's cleared up, once Deku arrives at the infirmary, he lays Chop Chop down on one of the nursing beds. A Mabu comes in and heals Chop Chop up, and they leave the infirmary. So, Deku is going to leave Skylands for the day to return home. Inko does know that Deku goes to Skylands after school, so she isn't worried or anything. But Chop Chop stops Deku and says, there's something you need to learn about your powers. If you really are going to a high school for heroes, then you need to learn how to use your powers outside of Skylands. Deku is looking at Chop Chop, questioning this, and asks, what do you mean? Chop Chop responds by saying, your powers work differently outside of Skylands. Your powers are also linked to the Book of Skylanders. As long as you are outside of Skylands, that is. Deku is curious about this and wants to ask more questions, but Chop Chop before Deku can ask anything, Chop Chop says, "I'll explain everything tomorrow. You just need to go and get some rest." Okay. I'll try taking the portal early in the morning. If I'm not able to, then you should be able to come here and bring me with you. Also, sorry if I'm mixing up the voices of the characters. Trap Shadow and Chop Chop are very similar voices, at least to me, so I might be mixing up their voices, and I apologize for this. Anyways, Deku does take the portal home. You know, Chop Chop, he goes to help Trap Shadow get reacquainted with the academy. And when Deku returns home, he sees that Inko is still making supper. So he walks out and says, "Hi, Mom." Inko greets him, tells him that supper will be ready soon, and the night basically goes along like any other night. However, it's in the morning that things will change. Now, some people might be... I don't think some people will like how I'm going to be doing this. I'm going to be having Deku use his powers similar to how he acts in Mythical Mayhem's What If Deku Was a Skylander, which you should totally watch part 1, by the way. I really like the direction he's taking it, you know? He's also new. His Slugterra What If is pretty good. So yeah, shoutouts overall. Anyways, so Deku wakes up, he goes to the portal, and the portal glows, and Chop Chop walks off of it. And Chop Chop says, "Well then, are you ready for today's training? We aren't going to be doing it here, obviously. I have managed to make arrangements with someone so that I could train you where they'll be training someone else." Deku asks who this will be, and Chop Chop responds by saying, "Just wait. I'm pretty sure you know them already. Besides, they do know what they're doing. He does know what he's doing." Sorry about that. Just making sure that I thought something was missing, so I opened a drawer, and it turns out that it wasn't. I don't know why I thought something was missing. Anyways, so, Deku says, "Well, if we're going to be leaving the house, you should throw on a cloak. It may seem suspicious, but I know that you're friendly, and I can vouch for you. Plus, the heroes of Japan already know what you look like, so if they do come to investigate, they'll most likely know that it's you upon first sight, like when they look at you under the hood." Chop Chop sighs, and he understands that his appearance is threatening to people who do not know him. Because, well, he's a skeleton with armor. What do you expect? So, you know, Chop Chop and Deku, they walk to Dekuba Beach, and they see All Might in his Small Might form training someone. Chop Chop greets him. Chop Chop greets All Might, and this is where in canon we get the explanation of One for All. And I'm gonna say in this timeline, instead of training Mirio or Bakugo, and honestly I have been wanting to do something like this for a while, I'm gonna say that he's actually gonna be training Kirishima. Okay, so the reason why I'm doing this is because Kirishima, he had to, learn how to be brave. And I'm going to say that All Might bumped into him when he was training. You know, he saw that Kirishima was trying to better himself. He didn't have a strong quirk, but he had the... I'm just going to say that he checked off all of the boxes when All Might met him. So he made the proposal to Kirishima, and Kirishima accepted. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna say for this. I haven't actually thought of the specifics for it, but yeah, All for One's going to Kirishima. If you do not like this, then you can metaphorically fight me. Anyways, a little side note. In this What If, I'm gonna have Deku's powers outside of Skylands work similarly to how Mythical Mayhem is having Deku use his abilities in his What If Deku was a Skylander What If. Which, by the way, shoutouts to Mythical Mayhem. He still is new, but the 3 What Ifs he does have are really good, and I definitely suggest checking him out. We might be collabing on stuff in the future. Well, not might be, we most likely will be. I am very open to working with people. Anyways, so how this is gonna work out is I'm gonna have the Book of Skylands basically be able to transfer the energy of the Skylanders, like, not the Skylanders' energy itself, but the energy and abilities of the Skylanders to pretty much any inanimate object that the user wants, which in this case will be cards. Now, obviously, only the Portal Master can use these cards, but they can be used. So, Chop, you know, he brings Deku a little bit further down the beach so that Kirishima and All Might can be less interrupted for this part, since, well, Kirishima is going to still need to clean the beach on his own. But I'm going to say that Kirishima will also have sparring matches with Deku in the future, but before that, this next part is before that. So, when Chop stops, he turns to Deku and says, "You have the book, right?" Deku pulls off his bag and brings out the Book of Skylanders. Chop says, "Good." He removes his cloak and says, "Now you must learn how to use my abilities. As the Portal Master cannot manipulate the energies of any world other than Skylands, you will need to have an external source of power. The Book of Skylanders is the ability to transfer the powers of each Skylander drawn in the book to inanimate objects. It's easier for the Portal Master to use if these objects are small and easily portable. Not only that, the Portal Master can only use have a certain amount of cards on him or her at a time. So you're going to need to choose who you have wisely. As of right now, my prediction is that you only have one Skylander per element. As you draw more Skylanders in the book, you should be able to unlock more and more Skylanders per element. I think the maximum limit is either 5 or 6 as of right now. Anyways, so what you are going to need to do is take out an item that is easily portable and put it on the page of this drawn Skylander that you have drawn in the book. and then focus on it. Focus on the book and release its energies. All Deku has on him at this current time is a couple of dollar bills and a deck of playing cards. He doesn't know why he has playing cards in his bag, but he pulls out one of the cards, this card being the Ace of Spades, and he puts it on the page where he drew Chop Chop. Now I'm going to say that Hugo did end up going into the book and drawing Chop Chop closer to how he looks on his Series 2 card. Anyways, he puts the card on the book. And the card grows a symbol. It changes. The card is now pure white with a gold rim, and in the center of it, of one side, it shows the symbol for the element of undead. And on the other, it shows a smaller drawing of Chop Chop. Deku is surprised by this, nearly dropping the book. And he pulls the card out, puts the book of Skylanders back into his bag, along with the deck of cards, other than the card that has Chop Chop on it. Chop Chop says, "Good. Now then. All you need to do is extend your arm out fully and focus on the energies of the card. Then you will gain some physical identicality with me. I guess you can say that you'll look a little bit like me." Deku is a little bit shocked and is scared that he will become a skeleton, and Chop Chop chuckles at this and states it won't change your overall physical appearance, other than things like hair or slight skin tone adjustments. Everything else will be stacked on top of you, unless it's necessary for you to use the abilities of said Skylander. Deku is a little bit relieved, and he extends his arm out fully. And Chop Chop says, "As a side note, you don't need to extend your arm out directly in front of you to use it. As long as your arm is straight, you can activate the card from any angle." So, Deku, he understands this, and he starts to focus on the energies of the card. And the card glows and disappears, and Deku starts to glow. Now, this glow is gonna be a bright gray, because each element has a color associated with it, except for the element of undead, which used to be like a very dark purple, but and gray were like the main two. So I'm gonna say that it's a bright gray. So Deku glows a bright gray, and he, transforms, quote unquote. Now what Deku will look like when he's using Chop Chop's abilities is he will basically be in his hero outfit, except with Chop Chop's boots, Chop Chop's gloves, chest plate, and helmet, except the kind of mohawk-like bit on the top will be a little bit smaller. He will have Chop Chop's basic sword and shield, but all of the blue metal will be a dark metallic green. And all of the white detailing on Deku's suit will actually be gold detailing. I don't have an image to represent this, and I don't have money to try and commission this. I don't know if people are going to try to do fan art. I don't think I'm popular enough. Actually, I don't think I don't know, okay? I don't have a visual representation of this. So, yeah. And once he stops glowing, he is in the Chop Chop form, and he kind of takes a look at himself, like, as the best he could, and he's semi-impressed. So Chop Chop says to him, Good. It seems that you are already able to transform. I thought it would take a day or two, but you never cease to surprise me. Anyways, in this form, you'll have all of the abilities that I do. Deku, he is a little bit confused. Like, from what he knows, the only actual proper ability Chop Chop has is the bone spikes. But then he doesn't really question it either. Chop Chop says, I know what you're thinking. I do mainly rely on swordplay, but I do have some tricks up my sleeve. For example, it may not look like it, but I am one of the best Skylanders defensively. Every time I use my shield, I actually protect a greater area because of a semi-magical projection that comes off of it. Almost like a force field that's slightly larger than my actual shield. Now then, since you are in this form, you'll need to know how I fight. Which means all of the combo abilities I can pull off and all of my basic moveset, which you have already mostly seen in action, but you will need to be able to perform these on your own. Deku, he understands this and nods, and Chop Chop says, Good. For the first 2 weeks, you will be copying my movements. For the rest of these 10 months, you will be occasionally having sparring sessions with the person that All Might is training. I believe his name was Kirishima. Other than this, you will have the same basic schooling as you would in Skylands, and unfortunately, a small portion of your downtime will need to be taken up for your studying to enter whichever high school that you are trying to get into. You haven't exactly told me, or you have, and I was distracted. Deku says, I'm trying to get into UA High School. It's the best hero school in Japan. Chop Chop responds by saying, I see. I guess that is what I am referring to your high school as from now on. I'll try to remember. I don't really go to this world, so things outside of Skylands aren't fully my concern, since Skylanders has technically been considered the main jumping off point for an invasion of the worlds. Deku is kind of questioning this, since Chop Chop says worlds, but he doesn't ask any questions because he does know that Skylands is connected to his world. So the first 2 weeks go by, and Deku is almost mastered all of Chop Chop's abilities. The only thing he is struggling with is the bone wall. And since Chop Chop has been training Deku in swordplay, he is quickly able to master all of Chop Chop's combos. So, when the first sparring session between Deku and Kirishima comes, I'm gonna say that Kirishima, he'd be more fit than Deku by the end of the 10-month training, but he isn't fit enough to have one for all yet. So he'd have to stick with his hardening quirk, which he has improved since he's been working out a lot and been on a diet. His quirk has been able to harden himself more. I'd say he'd be able to reach the level of, I'd say pre-sports festival, post-USJ. So it isn't good by any means, but it's better than when he started at UA. So, Deku and Kirishima, they get ready. Kirishima, he hardens his arms. Deku enters uses the Chop Chop's card, and they get ready to fight. Chop Chop says, "Remember, no lethal blows." And bangs his sword against his shield to mimic the match starting bell. Kirishima instantly starts running at Deku. Deku uses a bone wall to throw Kirishima off, as he would have to jump to the side. Now, Deku's bone walls, I'd say they'd reach half as far as Chop Chop's bone walls, which I'm gonna say in this what if Chop Chop is able to reach 10 meters with his bone walls, so Deku is only able to reach 5. So the gap between him and Kirishima is pretty small. Kirishima, after regaining his footing a little bit since he had to dodge so fast, starts running at Deku again, but Deku pulls out his shield and starts running towards Kirishima. Kirishima tries punching the shield, but thanks to the force field effect that you can see when you use Chop Chop's shield, it doesn't actually damage the shield, but it's obvious that it pushed Deku back a little bit. Kirishima goes in to punch the shield again, when Deku basically uses a shield bash, and smacks it against Kirishima, knocking him back. Then goes in swinging his sword against his stomach. Kirishima obviously would harden this, since he doesn't know that Deku's sword is kind of dulled, since he doesn't want to kill anyone. It still can cut through stuff, but he can kind of choose what it cuts through, and he didn't intend on cutting through Kirishima. So Deku still gets the result he wanted, just a little less effective. And he throws back Kirishima. He's in the gut. He's kind of surprised. And Deku tells Kirishima, "I understand that you're trying to protect yourself, but I'm not going to be cutting through anybody with the sword. So, just so that you feel better if you aren't able to harden a certain part of your body in time." Kirishima is kind of relieved by this. He knows that Deku wouldn't kill him, but he was too caught up in the battle to think all that much. And as Deku and Kirishima return to their duel, Chop Chop goes over and talks to All Might. Since All Might is the #1 hero, he knows a lot more about this world than Chop Chop, and, well, a little bit more than Deku, but not by much. All Might has a better understanding of hero society, when Deku has knowledge on a society as a whole. And hero society is the one thing that Chop Chop needs more information on. So All Might starts talking to him about this, and I'd say about 3 minutes goes by, and Chop Chop slams his sword against his shield, both Kirishima and Deku are worn out. You know, Deku's been landing most of the hits, but thanks to Kirishima's hardening, it hasn't really hurt him all that much. So they're on an even playing field. So, Chop Chop says, I think that's enough for this session. I recommend that you two take a break before getting back to your regular training schedules. All Might agrees with this, seeing how tired and worn out both Kirishima and Deku are. And Deku, he goes out of the Chop Chop transformation. He helps Kirishima up since Kirishima was closer to the ground. You know, they both agree that it was a good match, and they say that they'll get better for next time. And Deku leaves. Yes, I am making Deku and Kirishima semi-rivals. Like, it's gonna be friendly rivalry. But, like, I don't know, I really like Kirishima's character. And giving him one for all is kind of made sense to me. Anyways, so when Deku returns to the academy, he sits down at one of the benches, in more of the garden-ish areas. Like, he hasn't actually entered the academy halls yet. He's in the outside area that the main hub of Trap Team is. So, Chop Chop says, why can I not think right now? Chop Chop then goes over to Deku and says, so, looks like you're going to be having a classmate in your studies now. Deku is confused and asks who it is, and Chop Chop says, Stealth Elf never finished her studies. She managed to become a Skylander out of mostly pure skill of combat. I will say that she was a very good Skylander, and she is very intelligent, but she still needs to finish her studies. Deku, he is relieved since he thought someone else had come to Skylands. So, now the reason I'm saying that is because the government does want to keep the Portal Master a secret until he is going to, either he is going to a hero high school, or he has graduated from a high school, in case none of the high schools accept him. And, yeah, they're just going to be covering it up until Deku gets in. And then once Deku gets in, they're going to be like, okay, so this dude is this thing. Go buck wild with this information. You know, they're going to be trying to make sure that news reporters and all that aren't just, making it so that Deku cannot leave his house. Because there are so many there. So, yeah. So, I think I'm gonna leave part 3 off here. Yeah, because I do kind of want the in-class interactions between Deku and Stealth Elf to be, better handled. I am also thinking of doing starting another What If. I don't know if it'll really rock it off or not. I'm also going to be trying to do a half-scripted style, since I haven't actually been sticking to a script. And what I mean by half-scripted is I'm going to write out all of the major plot points, technically, for each part, and then I'm gonna try to weave them together in a way that makes sense. And yeah, that's basically it. I'll probably be posting part 4 either tomorrow or the day after, because, well, I do want to start on that new What If, and I need to think about Skylanders to add to this one. So far I've only gotten like 3 people to ask about Skylanders to add, and I need to think about ways to add them that doesn't feel rushed, because I do want to make it so that, he encounters these Skylanders semi-naturally. Okay? So that's it for this part of the What If, and I will catch you all later.